knowing what is
I'm
meant for
recording,
me will
Ali.
never miss me, and what is not meant for me will never come to me. Welcome back to another episode of A2 the Show. This is
I'm
it's the Wise
freezing. Look
Guys
at that.
episode.
Another Wise Guys episode. We're back at it again. We got Saeed in the UK. We got Ameer in Saudi. We got Abbas in New York Spider-Man. And we got Ali Shimini in Jordan. Me in LA. Look at that. International Wise Guys.
As
Spider-Man.
it should be.
As it should be. And now we're
No
here
spoilers.
to talk about like a really important topic, and it's something that's really affecting all of us. I feel like last year and especially this year has been the craziest years of my life. And for
I wouldn't say
everyone.
crazy, I'd say worst.
I wouldn't. All right. Well, crazy because I
Yeah.
feel like it's been ups and downs. You know, like it just
Right.
feels like
It's all
everything's
perspective.
changed. Yes, everything's changed, and
A lot happened this year.
a lot happened
lot.
this year. All right.
It felt like 10 years. Just saying.
Let's jump right into the topic for today. Saeed, do you want to tell us what the topic for today is?
No, I'm good. You can say Ali.
Alrighty.
Right,
Duck, duck, go. Let's go.
Love the mood.
The Great Resignation, also known as the Big Quit, is an economic
Big
trend in which employees voluntarily resign from their jobs en masse, beginning in early 2021 in response to the COVID pandemic. Pretty much millions and millions and millions of people are quitting. I think in September alone, like it was like 4.4 million people in 1 month, like 3% of the U.S.
The
workforce.
workforce.
In 1 month. And
What's the
record
reason
numbers.
that they're
Waking
quitting
up.
for, by the way?
What is the reason they're quitting for? Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has allowed workers to rethink their careers, work conditions, and long-term goals. As many workplaces attempt to bring their employees in person, workers desired the freedom to work from home given the pandemic. And then it's led to a chain of events, pretty much. Pretty much, that's it. Like work conditions. A lot of people who were working before realized that, you know, after the pandemic that, oh, you know, I could have died and that could have been the end of my life. And I spent all my life, you know, day in and day out working on something I really don't like. So I might as well take a chance doing something I like with my life.
So the
Okay, that
pandemic
seems
was
like
like
a-
basically a wake-up call.
Pretty much. Ooh. That's like a little inside joke.
Ah! What makes you think
but-
it's a wake up call? Yeah, exactly. It's so crazy.
I'll tell you about it later.
You guys are dirty. You guys are dirty.
Yeah, hey.
Hey, man.
I have a question about this, like quitting. Did they all resign? Is this just based off on the US or is it like a worldwide trend? Where
I think it is a worldwide trend, from what I understand. It is like primarily in the US, but like everything, the US leads and everyone else follows. You know?
Oh no. Man, you want my honest truth?
What's your honest truth?
People are
Ali?
gonna hate me for saying this, but like, I know that sometimes people don't have the chance to get to university, and all of us are very privileged that we got the chance and opportunity to go to university. Because I feel like a lot of them are people that had the chance that decided not to go, and you know, are now they realize that, oh shit, I'm stuck here doing something I don't like with with no uni degree or anything, and like it's starting to catch up to them. But
You said it yourself, man. It's like, yeah, you're studying medicine. Abbas is studying
Right.
medicine, right? We're all like, you know, educated and stuff. And
yeah,
my job, you know,
I'm
I
very
love my
privileged
job.
to be where I am.
Alhamdulillah, man. Yeah, but I can't imagine if I was working in a restaurant or something as a waiter or something, how that would affect my life. And I think part of it's also is like we have the internet nowadays, and we can all like compare to each other, right? Like someone in India, whatever, can look at Facebook and see that I'm here living a good life, doing a podcast, whatever, and he's working at a factory. We're both the same age. We're both, you know, human beings and stuff. What makes him less than me? Why does he have to slave away while I live a good life? I think that's part of the,
Generational consequences, I would say.
yeah.
Like the reason okay, I can speak for myself, for example. The reason I'm in a good spot is because my dad was in a good spot, and that was because his dad was in a good spot, right? So it's kind of like a series of good choices made ancestrally. Is that the word I
Right.
want to use here? I don't know if what I'm saying.
Generational. You said generational.
So
Yeah.
generational good choices led us to be in this privileged place that we've been in. So should if I was a part of, for example, let's say I was in a generation where bad choices happened and I'm in this shit spot that I am today, should I really be complaining about, oh, it's my dad's fault, it's my mom's fault, it's my grandparents? Or should I be the person to be like, you know what, let's break this cycle, let's not make it worse for my next, youth? Yeah. Should I start slaving away so that maybe our child could have a better future?
I do want to bring up a point, Ali, that you're right, and it's the we're in the discussion now, like our family, our ancestors would never complain like, oh, work is too hard or stuff like that. Just did it. But now we're doing it, right? Does that mean we're lazier or that we're softer or that?
I think we are lazier and softer because back then it's like a do or die, right? Like they all came from nothing. They all did. Abbas, you don't agree with me?
Abbas shakes his head. That's right.
I want to hear what Abbas. This is the first time Abbas disagrees with me on the show. I want to hear what you say.
No, it's not that. But I think we already talked about this. Is that back then, bro? Your dad and your grandfather and your great grandfather. I feel it was much easier to make money, man. I feel it was much easier to do anything back then. Right now, this is the do or die. This is the hard stuff, Like when we take things, okay, like me and you were studying, a lot of us here are we're studying, getting degrees, but for the people who don't have degrees, bro, that you can't I don't think you can break the cycle of poverty and stuff like that.
I disagree with you because a lot of people, like if you go to you were in the United States, right? That's where you're studying medicine right now. How many of the people around you, their parents are privileged versus their parents are not so privileged? They work I bet you there's a lot of them.
No, but what I mean is that right now, if you were to drop out of med school and work, it's going to be very hard as compared to even 20 years, man. 20 years before, that was when you could open up a random ass business and make money.
Yeah, I think I want to ask you guys a question, you guys who want to be doctors, right? So I met a few days ago, I met this guy who's a doctor in an ICU, pretty much. And he was telling me how crazy it is working. He works in Compton and such, and the people there, no one believes in the vaccine. Everyone's getting COVID. Everyone's dying from COVID. He's in there day in and day out. And he was telling me everyone's so burnt out. He's like, I wish I could just quit my job right now being a doctor and just open up a falafel shop pretty much and sell sandwiches. Literally, that's what he told me. This is a doctor.
Yeah, but even if he did the falafel shop, bro, it's going to be so hard opening work from scratch right now.
Right.
There's just too much competition. I just think right now the human population is overcrowding and it's too much.
That's not true though.
I don't
there is a saying I want to talk about also that is very related to what we're talking about now. I forgot how it went exactly, but it was poor man works hard, his son works blah blah blah, and then he becomes rich, and then because he's rich his kid becomes poor, so his kid I forgot, it's the saying that's somewhere around that. No?
Tough times create strong men, and strong men create easy times.
Yes.
Easy times create weak men. Weak men create tough times.
Yes.
Something like that, bro.
Yeah. That's not something. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Why were you guys saying you disagree? Ameer,
I disagree with the second part of your statement. So the first part about it being difficult and really time consuming, probably harder than being a doctor. Running a business is a successful business, especially a falafel shop, probably saturated with competition. That's probably really hard to do, man. But the second part about the population, that's just not true, man. The facts are against that. It seems like we're going to peak at 10 billion, and at 10 billion, our reproduction and the rate at which we're dying is going to be almost equal, bro. So we're kind of stuck at that point.
And we're dropping at 10 bill?
So far, that's what the studies show.
Yeah.
And there's also the idea that we're producing so much food and we're getting faster at producing it, and we're ending world hunger and reducing the amount of diseases, and we're adding nutrients to staple foods like salt. They're adding iron now to salt, So they're trying to combat iron deficiency by adding iron to salt.
Because vegans don't want to eat meat.
You're adding folic acid and vitamin B to meat, and there's a lot of things that you're doing to help feed people the right types of food in the world. And so population is not that much of an issue, and it's becoming less and less of an issue as we progress into the future. So that's why
I was talking less about food and more about like businesses, like the competition.
And working.
Even businesses. Yeah, that's the income per capita is increasing. The people are earning more money per person. The poverty line is increasing. There's so much positivity towards income. You're freeing up. So as with anything, people are always scared of like technology that's disruptive and like replaces jobs, but then you open up new jobs and new ways of bringing value, and you open up like tremendous opportunities for income being generated. Now, the main issue is actually making sure that this income is like being spent in a way that kind of trickles down, as the fancy economists like to say, but that's difficult to do. But there's I don't remember who it was, the authors, but he wrote this book, and he rates the nations based on like how well they do that. So he created like some way to rate the nations based on how well they do that. And so
you mean like first world, second world, and third world countries?
Kind of like that, but he just rates them as per how good life is in that country overall, So he doesn't just rate the economy; he rates it overall. The Nordics seem to be doing really well. So
what are his metrics for the ratings?
I can't remember. That's the thing. If I'll get back to you. I'll do some research. I just know Norway was beating everyone. I know the social democracies were doing the best.
Dude, how come like Norway and Sweden and Denmark are always ahead of everyone and everything, like education?
Yeah. So he argues it's because of social democracy.
So he's a socialist.
Social democracy is not the same as socialism. Socialism, in short, socialism, the government owns the businesses. Social democracy, businesses are still owned by people, but you don't tax the corporations, you tax the people. It's a very weird. Anyway, I'm digressing too much.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, income, bro. Income is improving. That's what I'm trying.
I think the social part of it just refers to that, like at least people are being heard, and what they want is being taken into consideration. Versus in America, at least it's all about what the shareholders want and about where the money goes into. It's a very capitalistic place. And we're seeing it right now, like all the work that, I think part of the reason of like why this is happening, it's not like this communism happening everywhere and everyone's like waking up, whatever. I think it's more like people have been pushed to the edge for so long, and bosses are just getting away with just pushing people to the edge, and because it's competitive, they fire you, they get someone else to fill your spot, and
they're getting away with murder, man. Look at Amazon and the shit that's going on. Every fucking month or two, someone dies in a workplace because of safety hazards that aren't being checked, right? But then again, the motherfucker's the richest man on the earth. Who the fuck is gonna talk to him? He can legit afford to buy his ass out of any situation.
Yeah.
And I think big corporations need to stop looking at workers as just numbers and stats and people that get shit done, and start to look at them more as humans. Maybe that could be a good reason.
You sound like a socialist right now.
No, it's not. Listen.
By the way, I want to question this point because we're talking about a very large corporation such as Amazon that has lots and lots of warehouses with a lot of employees working in those places. So, and every now and often, like someone dies. But the thing is, this is a very large corporation, and because of the amount of people that are working there, the percentage, which is the same percentage as other businesses, it's just going to seem like a bigger number of accidents happening because it's just a bigger company. Right. While you won't notice the same thing in the smaller companies.
Listen, you're right. What you're saying is right. Because there's more people, there's more of a chance that this type of shit happens, and with the
bigger
news,
sample.
you know, like the news and the media, as soon as they get a whiff, they over dramatize it. I'm not against you at that point, but still, if you think about it, like Amazon has the capabilities and the money to make sure that shit doesn't happen as often as it is happening, you know?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is right, but you have this factor that also plays a heavy role in the whole situation. So it's like, it comes down to this. When a large group of people don't fuck with what's going on, they're obviously gonna all take, you know, unite under. It happened for like history. Like think of the French Revolution, right? Think of any revolution that ever happened ever. It's a bunch of people that disagree with shit. They all band together. And they're like, "Fuck it, let's all do this shit together." So it's like,
I agree with you guys, but there's a lot of things that people don't take into account when they evaluate like assets and the net value of someone like Jeff Bezos or Amazon. It's like, bro, if you look at Amazon's net profit margin, it was like 6%, bro. That's super reasonable for a corporation. If you try to increase like wages or costs or offer more services, how much before Amazon starts running at a loss, bro? Right? So I don't know, man. If you look at the balance sheet and you understand what's happening, kind of from a business perspective, it's tough to accomplish those things, man. From a government perspective, it's probably easier.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's
but it is really crazy, right? Because what you're saying is like for example, I mean, it happened here in Hollywood too, where like there was the biggest union strike out of all the Hollywood workers, from the cameras to the editors to the lighting people, et cetera, et cetera. They all like 50,000 people were on strike. This was a few weeks ago, and all they wanted was, instead of working like 12-hour days, they'd rather work 10-hour days. Instead of waking up at 6 a.m. and coming back home at 8 p.m., they just want to have a reasonable work schedule and stuff. And it passed, it went through, and things have gone a lot better. But it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, yes, a balanced like sheet is right, and like, you know, there are ways to make profit and grow, and you want to grow as a company, obviously.
Hello, but why go on a strike?
People,
why not?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, why quit? Why not just go on a strike? Why lose your job when you can just have your jobs?
People try, man. People try to keep their jobs. It's happening everywhere, man. Like literally, there was. I'll just tell you this quick story, but like, there's like in here in downtown LA, there was this like, and during Thanksgiving, there was this like turkey restaurant that does like Thanksgiving meals and whatever. And they were like, the workers had been asking for months, just like, instead of getting paid minimum wage, they get paid $1 above minimum wage, you know, like something like just like $1 raise or something. And then the company didn't, you know, fuck with it. And then what they did was, the day of Thanksgiving, everyone quit. And there were just like orders and orders and orders in the Thanksgiving, like in the restaurant, and people came to get the food and stuff, but they couldn't come in. They could see it, but they couldn't get in the restaurant because everyone and the managers, they all quit. You know, people are quitting and they're making a show out of it. It really is crazy. And it's happening, like, the amount of stories. I don't know if you've ever seen like the Burger King signs where they're like, "We all quit." You know, McDonald's, "We all quit." You're seeing it everywhere. It really is crazy. Yeah.
I haven't seen those. By the way, Ameer, I wanted to ask you, you said it was easier earlier. You said it was easier for the government.
To address those things, of course.
To address them, as in like to make decisions, or to actually implement them as well?
No, so like what I meant was that, you know, the government spending can really impact the economy.
Yeah.
And as you can see now with like the Federal Reserve increasing the debit, you know, you're gonna expect inflation to keep increasing.
Yalla.
Till the tapering begins, and then it's going to reduce again. But here they are, they're increasing inflation. If they wanted to reduce it, they know how to do that too. If they wanted to like reduce buying power, if they wanted to create more jobs, they wanted to spend more money on healthcare, they know how to do all of that. They're smart people in government. They're not dumb, bro. They're just, I think, so that's why I think the responsibility on fixing things like that falls more on the government than it does on the corporation.
No.
The corporation is just trying to provide a service.
Okay.
If
But
the corporation is like tyrannical, then the government policy should put it in place. That's.
So are you talking about large companies or just like in general, all companies?
In general, like policy should work in a way that benefit the consumer, or like rather protect the consumer, and corporations should run at a way that where they can benefit, but they're not tyrannical enough with their employees, man. Like that's that can happen.
But the thing is, they do have a hand in altering policies because first of all, they have large lobbies that can make sweeping changes in policy administration, and they have a major influence in that point. So they can, if they want, to lobby for example, increasing in minimum wages or better benefits or anything of that.
Of course.
I'm not saying they don't care. It's just but like you were saying, when you look at it at the balance sheet perspective, they still need to make a profit in the end.
Yeah. No, of course they're gonna manipulate it if they can, and they will, and they're doing that, man. It's just that's not what's happening everywhere. There are good examples of nations that are doing that well, and obviously that's how human enterprise works. You always find the benchmark, you set the benchmark, you look up to it, and then you try to pass that. And what I've noticed is some countries have set the benchmark. Some of them like corporate benchmark, where it's like, how can we make our corporations the best possible? And then there were some that set the benchmark as human life, like how can we take care of every human in our nation? So I think that's the biggest difference.
Now we're addressing different types of economies, because like you're saying the good examples, they don't are they coming from like capitalist countries or from, like you mentioned earlier, social?
I mean, there's nothing out there that's entirely pure, man. Like pure capitalist, pure socialist, pure communist. There's nothing like that, bro. It's just all of it is like mix and match, because that's what we need. You kind of need to like find what works best, and you're improving it. The Nordic countries, Norway, it has a lot of socialist policies, but it's not a socialist nation.
It has stocks and stuff, so it's
it's still a free market. It's capitalist, but there's the way they run their spending and the way they prioritize the government plans is different than the way the US does. They don't spend as much on weapons, but they do spend a lot on education development. So that's one big difference. Yeah. So
one thing that shocked me is that people are voluntarily leaving their jobs. They're voluntarily quitting, as opposed to the COVID situation, like people getting fired. I thought the opposite was true. I thought people were getting fired. I thought like jobs were being more scarce, because that's what I heard. But apparently not. Everyone's
looking like they're low. Help wanted everywhere, but 20 million employees quit since April. Imagine.
Now, because like the COVID situation is getting a tad bit more stable. Now we have Omicron, but like a tad bit more stable. So now there's like help wanted. But before, we're talking about 2020, I thought they were getting fired. Like I thought people were getting laid off. Is that true, or?
They were. A lot of people got laid off.
Yeah.
This is back when the pandemic was still mid-action, right?
Yeah, because I think the graph Ali showed was 2020, was it?
No, 2021.
Yeah.
So it dips actually in 2020 in the graph.
Okay.
So people resign less in 2020 because more of them were scared of losing their jobs. So
Okay.
What I've noticed that seemed very successful during the pandemic times is the marketing strategy for mental health awareness. Holy shit, man! They just got a free, like easy advertisements for that shit, and I feel like that actually helped people realize, to be able to make these decisions that we're talking about, like they're quitting because they want to seek better options in their lives. So they also became aware about their mental health.
This brings up a good topic that we should discuss next time, which is using AI in mental health. I don't know, Ali, if you've read about that.
I don't know about that, no.
Bro, I've been reading a lot about AI recently because of my module.
I love AI, bro. So the way they're using AI in mental health.
Oh my God.
Suppose like you're sat with a therapist, so they record everything you're saying, and then basically
they can analyze patterns in your speech.
They analyze the words, the tonation, and they like try to figure out what kind of words produce the best results and what kind of words promote the patient to have the most positive outcome towards change. So super interesting. We should discuss that, man. And I feel like that.
I was doing the research about it, and it was also talking about AI in politics. That's also another thing. But we're talking about but AI, because like we also mentioned how technology was probably going to take away jobs from people. But AI actually can do the opposite. It can, like we were saying, like Ameer said, it can create jobs. But at the same time, you also said can generate income. On the point of that, they can, because they're taking off all of the like meaningless tasks, like the manual labor that all people can do, and which takes a lot of time, they can now focus their work on the more specialized, more important tasks. Like humans can focus on those tasks instead of having extra, fucking databases to work with and Excel sheets and to create all that stuff. So they can work hand in hand,
but
by keeping the same job.
You're right? Like people, like doctors, for example, instead of having to do the whole surgery, they can just monitor, and they can monitor different surgeries whenever. So
does that change my pay though?
No, it doesn't.
Because if it does, I don't want it.
Pay is determined by supply and demand. So
no, because AI can also, in a way, provide income to create the universal basic income for all countries. Because it makes a more productive economy. So then there's just like the governments are being productive, and they have all these people that don't really have jobs, but it's like in the Kuwait's idea, they can use that income for whatever they need.
I heard Kuwait. What's going on?
You know how you guys have a UBI, universal basic income?
Yes, UBI.
Basically, but that's because we can afford that shit.
AI can help all countries have a UBI.
Exactly. That's absolutely true, man.
But then, if you think about it, why give a UBI to begin with? You can just have AIs do everything, and then have everyone just reap the benefits. Like
it's not fucking Wall-E, man. We're not gonna go.
I don't know. It seems like you're going that path to me. Like, okay, AI, let them do everything. We'll just sit here, hover through.
You know what? Actually, it could be Wall-E one day. It could be in 200 years in the future. Actually, why not?
People spend too much time.
UBI is a good start.
Listen, I'll tell you. Let me get this thought out before I lose it. We depend too much on AI. We forgot about the sweet of adversity and how good it is to go through shit while working. Like putting in the hard work instead of just getting AI and living like a Kardashian for the rest of your life. You get paid to exist. Like that's not fun. Let's be honest.
I think we misunderstand what hard work is, because like the way we perceive it, it's like we perceive it as how our parents told us how to do it. Hard work is like using your hands. You have to fucking dig into the soil and
grind.
Exactly. Physical grinding. I feel with time it's evolving to something new. That's kind of that's how the gist is, and we just have to find that new hard work, because they have tough times.
Smarter.
They had their tough times. We have different tough times. Doesn't mean we don't have tough times.
Listen, let me tell you this. I have 3 friends that graduated from this university, right? And I asked them, I was like, how's the work life? They're like, listen, it's hard, but as soon as you get that paycheck and you spend it like a motherfucker, that feeling that you deserve that paycheck because you worked so hard is unimaginable. That's the feeling I want to get to, is getting paid good money because of the hard work I put in.
Ali, what if you died the day before you got a paycheck?
Yeah. No. Oh my God, that's so sad, man.
I mean, if it happens, it happens.
7 years for med school, got depressed.
Your family gets your life insurance.
But it's like, I think that's what part of what COVID did was just like, it made everyone be like, oh, I'm gonna die. Oh, I'm not gonna die.
Well, Zayn, you guys just woke up to the fact that you're gonna die one time.
Yeah, man. Everyone had that scare, man. I thought everyone was gonna die.
No.
So what if, with this fear of death, I'm going back to this again, but the fear of death is the most retarded shit I've ever heard. We're all gonna die. Every single one of you here, every single one of you watching right now, we're all gonna die one day, be it tomorrow, the day after, a month, a year, 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, regardless. It's inevitable. Why spend so much fear and so much emotion on something that's bound to happen whether you like it or not?
Okay, but that's not the point. The point is that our time is finite. So why slave away doing something we don't love when we can do something we potentially love?
Because Dr. Abbas, instead of depending on dopamine, let's depend on endorphins.
Oh!
Instead of depending on that hormone, instead of depending on
this
that
is the
hormone,
intro, boys. This is the first and second intro for the episode. That shit, you know.
Listen, let me
guys, what a wake-up call, man.
Here, let me
The
tell you
wake-up call that you needed. Put it as the fucking thumbnail.
Dopamine is a happy hormone. So is endorphins. The difference is dopamine comes from shit like chocolate or smoking or that kind of stuff. It's very temporary. It lasts maximum 5-10
really
minutes.
Good porn, yeah.
Oh, here we fucking go. We always do this shit on show, and I always talk to you boys about this. No, that's also, by the way, technically speaking, that's also dopamine, but that's not what I'm talking about. Endorphins comes from when you finish from the gym and you look at yourself and you're like, wow, I really lost weight. You know, I put in all that hard work, and you feel good about yourself for maximum a week, 2, but that's good. That's the good kind of happiness that we need, not the fucking dopamine. Because if we depend on too much dopamine, and every second we're gonna try to raise the level of acceptance, and I don't want to get too medical here. But
it's true. Tolerance, whatever.
The tolerance is gonna be shit. Why not depend on something that's a bit more prolonged, where it's gonna take a lot of time for the sensitivity to decrease?
No, I agree.
That's where hard
Bro,
work
this sounds like a presentation by a drug dealer to try new shit. Like this is too much dope is not good for you, man. Gotta try the crack. Go for it.
Drugs is the definition of the short term dopamine, feeling good.
Yeah, man. This is why this is a wise guy's topic, because it is kind of it's confusing, right? Because it makes of course, work is going to be hard. What do you think? It's going to be easy?
Nothing
works. You're getting paid for it.
If existing at a certain point in your life becomes difficult, what do you think about actually doing shit with it? You know what I mean? So it's like, let's not stress too much. This is to anyone who's thinking about quitting his job or her job. We don't discriminate with gender. Let's not focus too much on, my life is shit right now. And let's focus on breaking that cycle that you're in, so that your future generations and our future generations can all have a happy life, right? Because that's how it was. You would say, I'm going to round this back to the start when we said it was easier for them to start a business. Dude, they don't have the education we have today.
Yeah.
They had to start everything from scratch. The amount of trouble our grandparents, regardless of what they did, the amount of struggle they learned their shit along the way. They had to really think about what they were doing,
and
just so that they don't end up like whoever is in our age group and is not doing too well.
No, don't get me wrong, by the way. I didn't say that back then they didn't work hard. But
I know. You're just saying
it was a bit more incentive to work hard.
It's just different.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just different.
So why don't we have that same mindset of incentive to work hard?
Because we live in different times, bro. That's
okay.
You can't compare the same. It's not the same, because the environment they lived in was different. They didn't have the internet back then. They didn't have this.
But what's the internet
the same
got
influences.
to do with working hard, though?
Mashi, it's just different environments and different influences going on. So you have different problems. You can't really compare them, because it's not the same situation.
Here, baby.
Because if your dad Masan was born in your time and you were born in his time, it would be completely two different timelines.
Right.
It just
the
internet fucks with the whole universe.
The internet plus COVID equals madness. That's just what it is.
Basically, yes. I guess people need to slowly start to remember it's impossible. And I remember we talked about this before, how after COVID people are not going to be the same, and it's clear, you can see it. But if there is a sliver of hope, no, everyone looks blank. They're like, when did this happen?
I remember, we've been doing this.
What? I'm sorry, I blanked out. What did you say?
I said, remember when we talked about how after COVID,
Everything's gonna change.
everything's gonna change. Nothing's gonna be the same as it was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
I bet none of you even remember how life was like pre-COVID. We got too used to.
I
this.
remember.
I honestly don't remember.
I remember.
You
When
guys
I
School
remember?
on
go to the
Saturdays, bro.
cinema,
Oof, I
no
remember.
masks.
So it depends on people like you guys who remember what life was like to try and help bring back that life. Because if we change, there's
Yeah.
no telling if we're gonna go on the good part of change or on the bad side of change.
I agree.
And each is worse than the other. Good side could be good, but then turn bad or whatever. Bad side is bad, like bad, right? That's from the word. So
But wait, why are we trying to resist change? Why not we just?
It's
Why
not
can't we just
resist-
like explore?
because
So I agree with him because like some of it, I would critique it too because some of it comes from like romanticism. Oh, let's fucking all quit our jobs and just work from home, and then it's not calculated, bro. It's not intelligent decision making. It's just whatever, man.
I don't know, man. Yeah,
It just has to be
some-
researched,
some-
for
Yeah, exactly. It's mixed, obviously. Obviously, we had so many guests on this podcast, Hadi, who have quit their jobs and started their own businesses, and that's how we
True.
linked up with them. Like the
Right.
majority of the guests.
but that's not the new idea, quitting your job and starting your own business. That's an idea that's been around for like a century.
Yeah.
Right. But mass quitting,
mass resignation.
that's the word. Mass resignation of a company's staff. That's like the worst to go is a strike. Everyone would stand outside in their fucking uniforms in case they decided to quit the strike, right? And now it's gone to a whole new level of, hey, everybody, let's just quit.
Bro.
But what
it's
leaves a
just-
bigger message?
Yeah, I mean that's the point, right? It's like you really want to say fuck you to these people that have been screwing
Right.
you over.
But at the end of the day, you're replaceable.
Speaking
So what's
of,
the point?
I mean,
But 20
you're
million
not-
people, bro. That's like a
Yeah,
very large
exactly.
part of the labor
Like,
force.
I
So if
gotta.
20 million.
I wanted to mention this like little story that happened where like yes, millions of people have been quitting from these large corporations, Amazon, Walmart, McDonald's, etc. Part of the retaliation, like also the bosses, they've been sending like AI job applications to all these places and like spamming them with like fake job applications. So all these employers are like going through the job applications. Oh, let me call this person. Wait, it's a fake person. Let me call this person. And they're like overwhelmed with job applications because it's AI. And now they're like, oh, why are you using AI against us? Stop it. You guys are so mean. That's literally what it's like right now.
I think that's also a fuck you to the government, because like they're supposed to be handling the situation and it's not in favor of the labor force. So it's like basically a wake-up sign for them as well to change the way that they're perceiving the policy changes.
Right.
And the thing is, it's not just blue collar workers. Like everyone gets fucked, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Especially,
That's
did you guys were talking? I think we did an episode about video game developers and how they do that crunch period, and they have to like develop entire games in 6 month periods. Then they get kicked out of the firm. And it's so shit.
They
Yeah.
quit. It's a very toxic
It
environment.
is very
Yeah.
toxic. It's all crazy.
Yeah, man.
But hey.
I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah. But I think you guys want to just wrap it up here?
I don't see the time there. Right, man. Let's keep going. This is interesting one.
I think
It's
we
a wise
talked
guy's
about every
gossip.
aspect. Yeah, it is.
I just
Talked
think
about every
part of
aspect.
the like yes, times have changed before like our dads and grandparents' age to now is that I think we are a lot smarter than we were back then, mostly because of the internet. We have access to information, and with that information,
Sometimes ignorance is bliss, no?
do you
because
think
we have
so?
all this information. Yeah, look.
This is
they
where we
don't have
disagree.
as much
Ali.
information. Look, hey, let me just go with this role that's happening in my mind right before I lose it. Because
Someone give him a beat, I guess.
cool. I lost it. Great. It's back.
Go for it,
It's
please.
back. Right? Because we have the internet and we're all like knowledgeable on anything and everything we want to know about, it's like it kind of fucks with us a little bit, because back then they didn't have that kind of shit. They just focused solely on what they had to do to make ends meet, right? Whereas now we're over, what's the word? This is how I describe the feeling.
Saturated.
Spelling?
Is that the Really say it? Really?
Just,
No, like, you know, when it's like it's too much, it gets too much. So it's like a lot of
Stressful.
distractions. You don't know what to
Yeah.
focus on. Everything is taking you from different.
Overwhelmed. Okay.
Overwhelmed. That's the word. Overwhelmed. Because we're super overwhelmed, it's like we lose focus on what we have to do, I'd say. And that's where I say ignorance is bliss. It's sometimes shit. Fuck, what did I do? Sometimes it's better to not know. It's better to just focus on what you got to do to get to where you want to be.
Right.
that's if you can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
No one can handle it.
No one can handle it. No, but I kind of agree with Ali Sumari. You kind of want to, you should focus.
That's
Man. But you should focus, man. There's just too much to be aware of in the world right now. That if you try to be aware of everything and to have knowledge on everything that's happening around you, you will be overwhelmed, and you won't be able to make correct decisions because you'll be like, well, this impacts this way, but that impacts this thing the other way, and it'll be very difficult to weigh situations positively and negatively.
Yeah, but there's also another thing I want to add on top of that. And if you guys disagree with me, you can tell me. It's not just their overwhelming us with a bunch of shit that's distracting us as humans. It's also our generation and the ones that are coming are growing to be more and more sensitive and let's care about the stuff. Whereas back then, people purely didn't give a shit. Right? Like, it's not just they didn't know, they don't want to know. Right?
Ali, you mentioned something important. You said that our generation and the coming generations are overwhelmed with bullshit,
information.
Right? A bunch of random shit on the
Information.
internet and and around.
But the previous generations didn't have this amount of overwhelming
It's
experience.
It's not just that. They went through wars. They went through all that shit, right? But on top of that, they just learned to not give a fuck about that for a second. Let's focus on where I am right now. Let's keep moving forward. Whereas now it's like, we have to care for this movement. We have to care for that movement. And it's
I would disagree on that point, bro. Because if you look, for example, I know us as Lebanese people, just like look at our parents. They haven't forgotten. They're still, it's not like they're just, forgetting about that shit. My family still talks about the Civil War and it's still, the PTSD is still clearly there, man,
Yeah.
I think what you mean
And it influences their daily lives.
No, but I think it's like in their actions, like they're not stuck in the Civil War though, are they? They're working, they've progressed, they're focusing on their day-to-day life, they've started a family.
Exactly.
No, I would say that still affects them because, like, for example, if they want to deal with different communities that were involved in that war, it's not the same if there was no war in the first place. They still haven't gone through the treatment of it.
I think with my
not entirely, yeah.
I guess there's no such thing as the golden generation then, because everyone gets fucked in the ass at some point in their lives.
No, there's not. It's all perception.
They're dealing. Yeah, it's like every time a new generation comes, they're just gonna be like, "Oh, that was the good generation." Right? I bet you.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, should we focus on who got it best and who did it better, or should we just purely focus on ourselves and try to move forward in life and try to be in a better place?
Yeah, but
that's where the real question lies.
I mean, the best change.
What kills us?
Again, us?
Like us comparing each other to different generations.
Yeah.
Like we have expectations, like we need to be this, we need to be that.
No, I don't think you necessarily have to compare yourself to previous generations to get this point. I think the point is just you prove much more by acting than you do by whatever the fuck describing the issues or talking about it, If you just act, I don't know what your idea is, but suppose you're talking about the Civil War and how it impacts how you deal with people from different religious sects, right? The best thing you could do is show that, man, it's okay to hang out with people from different sects. We have very similar experiences. We hang out together, we work together, we earn a living together. That's kind of the best way to show that you've moved past that.
And that's what I try to do with my family, bro. But it's still, the memory is still stuck in their head.
Of course, man. Trauma is a real thing. Trauma is stuff to get past.
But yeah, that was the point I was trying to make about the trauma. It just influences the way you act.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that doesn't kind of disprove my point where I say, yes, they've gone through that shit, but still they were able to focus on themselves more than they focus on the past or the present as it was happening. Maybe they focus on surviving so that they see the end of it and continue what they were doing, at least, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but you're making an inferral that they've gotten over it.
I'm not saying
Like
that they got over it. I'm saying that I'll say it again.
No, I got it. I felt like the way you made it sound.
No. Of course they didn't get over it. Dude, my parents didn't get over the fucking Kuwait invasion, and they lived like through that shit. You know what I mean? Exactly. My dad and my uncle were like literally war prisoners, and they still aren't over that shit. But did that mean that to this day, like if I look at my dad and my uncle, they made it. They got in Kuwait really high positions to this day, right? And they were really like, they went through shit. They've seen shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
like, I asked my dad about the fucking invasion, and he sometimes doesn't like to talk about it. It shows. It actually shows. But how come they went through fucking wars and shit, and they did really good for themselves? And we're going through fucking internet drama, and we're barely making it through the day.
Yeah, man.
I don't know. I just don't like comparing this kind of shit because, like, it's just
because it's a
different battle. It's a different battle. It's a different battle. That's why. That's my point.
It's a different battle. You know, you're right. I agree with you on that. It is a different battle. Every generation is gonna have their own thing to deal with. Right. It's just how we deal with it.
But I agree with again, man. I don't know. We're on a roll today. I agree with you, man. It is it is a different battle. But it's good to keep things in perspective, man. It's good to look back and say things were horrible. Just gonna fucking say that. You know, things were horrible, and now things are better.
A lot better.
Maybe we ought to maintain a sense of gratitude as we move forward in life. No,
True.
If you guys, like, you've heard me say this before as well. Like, we're very blessed. No matter how bad we're having it, it's like we can have a worse. Which is, some people disagree with me. Some people say like you're wrong by just saying that, because if you downplay your feelings, you might like feel like bad, worse.
It's not downplaying feelings though, Abbas. It's called counting your blessings.
I know.
Counting your blessings. It's like, I do want to, like, it just makes me think of like all those things, like count your blessings, be a good worker, do what your boss says, you know, whatever, just keep things going, be happy and stuff. That's great. But just from my experience, all like the good people who like really work really hard and go the extra mile and like really want to do a good job and actually end up having it worse than the people who don't really care about the jobs to begin with. For example, like,
I guess it's finding that gray area of giving a shit and not giving a shit.
Well, it's like, I mean, you do want to give a shit about your job, right? Like, people care about their jobs, and
I definitely have to.
If you're an employer, you know, you're like, oh, this guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk about like my old job, for example. When I was working my old job, I really cared about it. I really wanted to make a difference. I really, like, you know, thought a lot about how I can, you know, voice my thoughts and just actually try to make a change and stuff. And then and because I really cared, but then what ended up happening is I got bit in the ass pretty much because of that situation, and burnt out, whatever the situation is, because you know, they see that someone's a good worker and a hard worker, and they take, you know, they take advantage of that situation. And yeah, and that's, you know, that's an even sadder story for me. Like then, for example, let's say you're like a doc, like you have a medicine company, you work at a hospital, right? You have two doctors, Abbas, Jawhar, and Ali Shimri, right? This is just I don't know, this is like
I'll give you an
extreme example.
I'll give you a real life example, bro.
Give me a real life
analogy. About a friend that I knew who did an exceptional job as a civil engineer, bro. He was one of the best. He worked at a firm. They loved him, man. He was so good at his job. But he just got bored of it, right? He wanted a new job, and he was basically in Saudi Arabia. So the kafala system here is that if you want to move to a new job, you have to first get the approval of your current guarantor. Right? Your current kafil has to agree, and I'm willing to transfer your contract to a different job. If he doesn't agree, you have to go back. Perfect. So they liked him, bro. He was a good employee, one of the best, but they didn't accept for him to cancel his contract and to move to, like, he was going to pay them like whatever they paid the legal fees to get that done. He was going to pay them back and they would transfer it. That's how it should be. Because they didn't agree, right? So he lost his job and he couldn't get the new job. But luckily, he was with a good firm here, so they put up with that shit. But he had to go back to Lebanon, and he spent so much on legal fees just to get his, just to get those guys to actually like sign to cancel his contract and even let him go back to Lebanon. Bro, they fucked with him so much, and he lost his job. He lost a lot of money. He lost his home. Like he had all his furniture, and then he canceled his contract, and he had to go back to Lebanon like within a week. So he didn't have time to like sell stuff. So he had to kind of leave everything. So it's kind of a fucked up story when you think about it. And he got all of that for being a good employee because they didn't want to let him go. They wanted to keep him so they could benefit from his stay longer and longer. So absolutely, man, fucked up things do happen to good people, and fucked up things do happen to everyone. And I agree, man. You need to have a certain degree of nonchalance, or like just keeping a cool head and not caring too much about what happened if things go wrong. And you cannot, and to do that, you need to not be super invested in your job. You should care, but as soon as you're done, you should kind of leave that behind somehow.
Yeah, that brings back what I said, which is basically find that gray area of giving a fuck about what you do and not giving a fuck.
It's sad, man, because everyone who cares about their job, I respect them for, caring about what they they do, But I know, I know the reality is that those people end up being taken advantage of by their, employers, because they they have a good attitude, and that they tell them to do the work, they're gonna say yes, I'll do the work. But if you tell a grumpy guy to do the work, he's gonna say no, I'm not gonna do the work.
Like, so I don't get paid to do that shit, which is this is a good ideology. People might hate me for this, but I have this ideology. Like, if I don't get paid enough to do something, I'm not gonna do it, regardless if I'm the best that can do it. Won't do it, Unless, that doesn't really apply to my job because I'm forced to do everything to the best.
If some kid came, Ali, I need you and your surgery, your match.
I don't get paid enough for this.
Yeah, I don't get paid enough.
I'll be like, listen.
Go to Abbas. He's a
good guy.
Well, my dumbass is probably gonna do so much of that shit.
Abbas is too kind to say no to you. He's also very smart. Some might say smarter than I am. Just go to Abbas. He'll help you.
I hate this.
Don't get paid enough for this. No, I'm kidding. Of course, I'm gonna have to fucking help that kid, but regardless, I'm not.
But Sally, the reality is that people end up doing what you do. Is like, yeah, just go to the other guy. He's more likely to.
It happens all the fucking time in Kuwait. What are you talking about? They just let you refer you to another doctor.
But then, it just makes me think. Like, I want to ask you guys this question: if you had to, if you were the boss in the hospital, and you had to Abbas is doing all his work and he's doing a great job and he's really doing his job great. And you need to promote, and you want to promote someone to a managerial position. Would you rather promote Ali because he's sour and he's gonna be sour if he doesn't get the promotion, or Abbas is gonna have a good attitude regardless of whatever happens?
Do you want the humanitarian way, or do you want the
Who would you promote? I want to know what you guys think. If you had to, this is the real,
do you want the honest answer?
It's crazy. What's the honest answer?
The honest answer is people like me are the ones that usually get promoted. Why? I'll tell you why. Because, how do I say this without offending anybody? Okay, I'll tell you. Basically, from a business standpoint, people will always try to put the cutthroats, the ones that will do and not overdo, in a position where things will remain under control, right? Where someone as nice as Abbas, okay, in hospital wise, of course he's the one who's probably gonna get, merited and higher up in the hierarchy based purely on his work ethic and knowledge, right? But from a business, if it was a private hospital, it would be me. If it was a public hospital, it would be Abbas. I should be a politician. Wallah. That was the greatest answer.
Yeah.
That was the greatest answer I ever fucking gave. That was so smooth.
So you're pretty much saying because you're lazy.
Sorry, I almost called you a pusher.
Because you're lazy.
Nah,
Or
bro,
a
it's
jerk.
just
You should
theoretical,
get a
man.
promotion and get paid better.
But then again, we're in Arabia, so it's like quitting your job is like you'd commit suicide before you quit your job in Arabia, bro. Wallah, let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think like for example, Lebanese people, I don't think they can do the quitting their jobs.
Yeah, like
they can't. They just can't.
Arabs as a whole, we're the worst slaves. That's one of my cousins told me. Arabs make the worst slaves because we don't. Yeah, hey, language, but we're just bad at like we don't hate the job, we hate ourselves for getting in that job, you know what I mean? So it's like we blame ourselves too much and it pushes us over the edge. So it's like Arabs make the worst slaves and this whole shit is slavery.
You know who my favorite people are when it comes to like managing that desire to do something?
You're gonna say when it comes to slaves, I was gonna be like, huh?
Who my favorite slaves are?
Slavery was a
Okay,
choice.
end your career.
I can't say my answer.
No.
My favorite slaves
like,
are
no.
my favorite slaves are minions, bro. Those are my favorite slaves.
Imagine having minions, honestly. Minions as slaves would be the greatest thing. It's like just fucking do that shit and they'll do it for you in a heartbeat.
Bro, I was gonna say my favorite people, like when it comes to like managing their job / dream, are the people that first of all prove that they want this. So, and what I mean by that is, say he's working 8 hours already, but he comes back home and he spends 2 hours every fucking day working on that other project. You know, he's proving to himself that this is something that matters to him a lot, and he enjoys it, and he's willing to do it even when he's tired, even when it's not providing the benefit immediately, right? And so the people that start the projects while they're working and they pick it off the ground, those are the ones that I respect the most, because get it working first, prove that you care about it, prove it's not just like a, like one of those romantic films where, I suddenly fell in love with guitar, I'm gonna quit everything, fucking start a rock band, and if just prove it's not something like that. Prove it to yourself first, and then the rest of it will fall into place on its own.
Right.
Give a shit.
Yeah. Well, with that,
that's pretty deep.
Yeah,
I agree with what you just said there. I think that's a great attitude about it.
Bro, the collective perception I've gotten from the discussion is that you should passionately not give a shit to keep the job. That's what I'm getting. It's like, okay, I'll take that.
Keep your job and exercise your other options.
Exactly.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Mind your own business. Yeah.
Do your thing. Focus on yourself. Push yourself to the limits. Get to that point where you break that cycle. Thank you for watching another episode of A to the Show. This has been The Wise Guys. If you guys enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed filming it for you,
Goku-san!
Right? If you guys enjoyed this episode, how much as we enjoyed,
we all quit.
Yu versus Goku.
Yeah, we all quit the show. Sorry for the
Ali,
but that doesn't mean you shouldn't like, subscribe, and share. Please do drop a like.
Share this with you.
Share.
I'm sorry, man. I can't do this anymore. I had to say it live.
Oh shit!
You got a wake up call, bro?
Me too, man.
Yeah,
I had a wake up call this morning.
I swear when you're at the hotel and you want to like wake up early in the morning, you just give them a ring on 0. Like, bro, give me a wake up call.
Well, boys, we've said enough. We've shot all over our friend enough. Peace, love, happiness, and we'll fucking see you, boys.
Love you guys.